Welcome to our guests around the table. You've met them all before, Mr. Jacques van der Voorst, Miss Kitty van der Heijden, and Miss Myrtil Danse. Before we start, I'd like to inform you that you may ask our panel questions via the chat. Please be specific who you are addressing your question to, and please be brief. And we have already some questions. I see a question for Kitty from Eric. How do we seduce African countries and leaders to adopt food system approaches without it being yet another Western approach? Erik Smading, Wageningen University Research. Yeah. Well, Kitty.
Hi, Eric. I think your question is a very valuable one, but it sort of presumes that African leaders would not subscribe to food systems approaches. And that's actually where I would like to question you. I just came back from 4 years in Ethiopia. And what do we have in Ethiopia? You also have the African Union, the collection of 54 African countries. I sat in almost every ministerial as an observer. What do I hear? We need different solutions. We need food system solutions. We need to make sure that we achieve leave no one behind. What does that require? Not just production. It requires engaging with women. It's looking at power relationships. It's looking at technology, irrigation systems, because water is becoming scarce. It's looking at deforestation, because that has an impact on precipitation patterns. So that type of thinking is already very firmly embedded, I would say, in the hearts and minds of most African leaders, and it certainly is in the African people that suffer from malnutrition. They know that they need more than just production. They also need finance, they need access. So I actually think that the African farmers and their leaders know more than we do. We can help them bring certain solutions, but it's homegrown from Africa, and I think we're already there.
Myrtil?
Yeah, I think I would like to add to that, because what you see is that a lot of smart solutions have been developed for high-income markets. So what you try to do is like a very high-tech solution with big margins, making it attractive as a business model. What is needed, like in low and medium-income context, is to bring these solutions to a low-tech environment. And the interesting thing is that if you translate it to that context together with the local parties, you can help them also to leapfrog from something that is not there yet to something that is very appropriate for the situation that we need to attend right now. In this moment in Europe, we use a lot of solutions that have been developed for crises that were in the past. And it's very difficult for us to make like a big change there. Yeah. In the African and Asian and Latin American context, you can start in some situations from scratch, but you have to adjust it to the local context.
Yeah, Jacques, you have anything to
add? Yeah, if I may add to my colleague, and he knows very well, I think, if you look in the past, a lot of solutions and technologies were developed and were indeed brought to Africa in the sense like, here's the solution. And I think the main changes that we have already implemented in the last years is to work together and really much more with local partners. And that will be increased much more because indeed, if it's not invented up there, if you don't have the whole food system approach and bring the different stakeholders together, it won't work. So I think we're on the way. We're not there yet indeed, and we have to do it together.
Yes. I see a question. What will NFP do to invest in a new generation of skilled, interculturally competent and inspired food system professionals to co-create locally relevant solutions? Well, you already answered it.
Youth is a very important issue. Bring youth into the agro-food system. Give them the opportunities to learn how to produce, how to trade, how to access local markets in the appropriate way, and make it also attractive for them. I've been working also in Ethiopia, as Kitty did, and there you had really like a boom of young Ethiopian people that studied actually abroad that came back to Ethiopia because they found it attractive to work in the horticulture sector. Why? Because it was a combination of local production with modern technology. So the NFP works already on capacity development for youth. We have a collaboration with the IKEA Foundation to work in East Africa with youth on agribusiness development. We have been talking also with East West Seed and with some other organizations to see what we could do in Asia. And we also are responsible for sending youth from the Netherlands to developing countries for them to learn what it means to work in that context.
That's interesting. Sir Richard Attenborough recently mentioned in his testimonial movie the Dutch agricultural as an example for the world, intensive agriculture. How do you see this, Jacques?
How do I see it? We just said, indeed, food systems are very different. If you look worldwide, there are different challenges in all kinds of places. If you look at the advanced systems we have in the Netherlands, they are indeed perfect, let's say, to produce those products with low environmental burden, with less water use, less chemicals, etc., etc. So that's top. But it doesn't mean that exactly that solution should be implemented everywhere. But bits and pieces of it can be used in different places.
Yeah.
So it's definitely about a leapfrog that we're making towards new technologies, and part of that can be used in many places around the world.
Okay.
Can I add to that? Because I think we do have a lot of phenomenal technologies, like the drip irrigation, for example. But if you take that technology and you bring it to Africa, what happens? More than half of the population won't have access to it. Why? Because women don't have access to finance. They don't have a land deed. They don't have the title, the legal right to own land. So we can bring a phenomenal system, and we cut off half of the population, which are women, because they don't have the collateral. The Agricultural Extension Service never works with women. So in fact, if we don't go from a homegrown solution and then adapt our technologies, as Mirtilla was saying, to what is needed, we will never bring a sustainable future for all. So I think it really is about bringing our technology, but making sure that it's adapted to a local context and that we don't rule out anybody, because we want a dignified, food-secure future for everybody.
I thought maybe Simon Groot has something to add to this, because...
I do.
Yes. I give you the floor.
I hear a lot of things that we have been struggling with in the last 40 years.
Nothing is easy.
And we learned it the hard way, country by country. And for instance, the example of drip irrigation is a very good one, because it is an obvious need for this world that is short of water in many ways. Drinking water, but also water for crops. And drip irrigation is one of the best answers. It was designed in Israel primarily for high-tech situations, usually good skilled areas. But in Asia, we discovered that, for instance, the Thais are quite inventive in making good use of something new. And they came up with small-scale drip irrigations that can even serve and becomes affordable for a 1,000-meter farm. And these mini drip irrigations designed in Asia are a far better approach for solving Africa's problems than something that comes up in the Western world.
Yeah,
that's what
it's a Thai system to produce small-scale, high-quality drip irrigations. And also the water that goes with it, you need to have a source of water, of course, and a pump to bring the water into the drip system. Yeah. So it's an integrated thing, and it was a Thai cleverness design that solved the problem.
Yes. Jacques?
Yeah, I just want to make the linkage towards the statement I made regarding the local improvements that should take place, the regional ones and the global ones. And the food system is an interconnected global system. And a lot of countries, even the Netherlands, we don't have all the products up here.
No.
So let's say it depends upon the solutions on whether you're looking local, international, etc.
I think you have to be careful also there. I mean, we have a lot of knowledge on working in a very intensive way, producing a lot with all kind of technology, because we're a small country with a big population, and we have to do it like that. Many other countries don't have that specific situation. And there, I love the example that Simon gave also, because we can also learn a lot and bring like innovations from these countries to our context. I mean, the way that information technology is used in many African countries to connect farmers, for instance, with the markets and other parties, they went much faster in using these tools than we went, and we can learn from them. So it's very much also about learning from each other, being very sensitive, like, okay, what's happening here and how can we respond to that?
Yes, well, I think the strength of the Dutch approach is collaboration. So, Kitty, in what way you are working together in this field?
Look, I think we work in almost every way together. So for us, we work as a government mostly as a funder. But as a funder, I don't just work with NGOs or with governments. I believe very firmly that we need the private sector to come to scale, to bring solutions to everyone, to leave no one behind. And that's also why we are so supportive of the Netherlands Food Partnership, because that actually brings together a hub of the knowledge industries, the private sector, the CSOs, and it brings the public domain. And I think that's the only way, as we said, it is a system approach. We need better regulation, we need smart innovative solutions, we need the agriculture, we need to look at the sort of local cultural context, the power relationships, the gender issues, and therefore if we can't get it together as a group here in the Netherlands, where is it going to happen? And quite frankly, I would like to say that we don't often compliment ourselves.
No.
But as the Netherlands as a whole, this is not me or the public sector, but we have been, I think, in the forefront, really a front runner in the diamond, as Jacques was approaching, bringing private sector, public sector, the world of science and the world of CSOs together to bring better and faster solutions. We have 10 years left. That requires a different way of working. And that's why the Netherlands Food Partnership is, I think, so important.
Yes, but I mean, and is it enough? I mean, what if we have only 10 years? I think there are some challenges we still will encounter. So, what do you think that is the most important thing we need to address now?
Yeah, I think that collaboration, for sure. None of these parties have the intelligence and the capacity to make this change happen, to contribute to these transitions that are required. So we have to benefit, of course, from the parties that do the things in practice and help them to be more effective in their own context. Companies working together with local organizations, etc. But we need knowledge institutes also to use all this rich information that is available and work together with front-runner researchers also in getting like more intelligence of where we can make additional changes. And we need policymakers also, not only for the funding, but also to help us to bring the insights that we get from practice to the multilateral organizations, to the Food System Summit that will be there next year. I mean, we can help to bring the examples and the knowledge. They can help us to bring them to the big agendas and contribute to the real transitions. This is what we need to do.
But don't you think that the time asks for a new policy? To design some kind of new policy? Jacques?
Nou ja, first of all, I think indeed the strategic plan of Wageningen is called Finding Answers Together, and that's exactly in line what has been set up here. Let's say we have to bring the knowledge together, and we have to educate the people as well. I think let's not forget about that. We can provide research, etc., but in the end, the knowledge of the people that are local, providing all the jobs in the supply chain all the way up to government, are crucial in making the change happen. And we are already, let's say, going from a much more individual policy on products, etc., to a food policy where we look integrally to what should happen in those countries. Whether it goes fast enough, that's another thing. But I think, like Kitty was saying, we're moving in the right direction.
Yes.
And I think, I mean, one more thing. I mean, we're now talking as if we're going to bring solutions to Africa. I think we also look at it from the other way around. We are a big part of the global problem. We are a major part of the global problem. If you look at how much, as I said, more than enough food is being produced already today to feed everybody in this world a healthy diet.
Yeah,
but we manage to either lose or waste 1/3 of all food produced. That is us, mostly, because it's food waste. In the restaurants, it's us at the home front that throw away food. That's something that each and every one of us can actually do something about. And so if you look at climate change and how that will feed into our ability to feed the world, we are the ones producing the emissions.
Yes.
So if we want a food-secure, sustainable world for all, we also have to look at what we need to do differently rather than just bringing something to others. So our responsibility counts as well.
Yes. And if I may add to that, that's why we are also interested as the Netherlands Food Partnership to engage the non-usual suspects. I mean, why do we work together with Rem Koolhaas and Stefan? Because it's not only about the actors in the food system producing, distributing and making the food available, but it's also about making everybody aware that we all have to do something different. And to show also together with designers, like what is it? what are the challenges and what are the opportunities in the food system, and how does it relate to us all as individuals? How can we prevent food waste? How can we also support to make this happen all together?
Well, Stefan, I mean, what role could smart design play in this?
Well, I think designers have an opportunity here to try to reread parts of what exists and try to look at it from a different perspective, try to, let's say, find a new way of speaking, a new way of showing, a new way of reading, a new way of also articulating the problems. I think we are indeed in that same boat, and I think we have some abilities that we want to test to see if we can bring something to the table that is not just decoration or not making a fine, nice ornament, but really looking at the heart of the issue and trying to look at the composition of the machine and trying to readdress that notion in a new way.
Do you have already an example of a smart solution?
Well, in the exhibition we show at least already a glimpse of how these global complexities work, how all these different types of policy making intervene, intersect, and how sometimes they are at odds and sometimes complementary. I've been active in China a lot in the last few years, and there you see enormous new inventions in the countryside, in digital platforms that they've been building that connect you directly to, for example, farmers in the field, where from your Beijing home you can just speak with a farmer live. He's in the field and he's selecting apples, and you can tell him, I want this one, this one, this one, send them to me, and you'll get them the next day in Beijing. So it's also really about finding new ways of connecting with the countryside and with the food sector. Also an opportunity for corporates to really find their consumer again, because they are all doubtful of these larger systems and their own position in it. So I think there's a huge opportunity to really fundamentally revisit how we think about food.
Yes. Kitty?
No, I completely agree. And I do think we've actually made major progress. And just a few examples of how we have, I would almost say, changed the world in terms of getting to a more food secure system. If you look at the World Food Programme, they just won the Nobel Prize. Yeah. It used to be that they would buy bags of food from the United States or Europe and then transport that to Africa. Now what they do is they have, if you will, a local credit card. It's obviously not MasterCard, but it's sort of a local credit card. They give them to refugees and displaced people in humanitarian emergency situations, and they can buy 25 of the essential products at local farmers, with local shops, so you support the local economy. What we do now with modern technology, we use a lot of satellite data. How can we bring that to farmers? Well, farmers almost everywhere nowadays have a mobile phone. So we can bring all those data and inform farmers when do they have to plant those seeds, when do they have to harvest the crops.
Fertilizer.
In my own world, we used to have projects on average for 3 years, right? Because that's sort of the political cycle. Now we think you can't bring system change in 3 years. You have to take 10 years to do that. So we are adapting. I do think we are changing. We do need to go faster. But it's not as if we haven't made, I would say, major progress. But it's up to the Netherlands Food Partnership and all the partners in there, I think, to push us to do even better and go even faster. Because as 10 years is next to nothing.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. And I just want to emphasize the word smart has many connotations, of course. You gave already one, Kitty, earlier. Smart farming, etc., also relates a lot to precision farming. We talked about drip irrigation, etc., etc. Smart, of course, can also be linked to science. I think that's also quite clear. But I think the essence is also the integrated solution, and we're back to the food system approach, the fact that we have to do it together to come to solutions. So smart has many connotations.
Okay. I have one question for Simon Groot from Maya. Do you believe in urban food production, and do you develop seeds for such, for urban food production?
I think that is very far off in most of the countries we work in, because they require very high investments, and the cost of the final produce will be considerably higher than what we have nowadays in the traditional systems where you use the sun as your main source of energy. And you cannot replace that unless you pay a lot of money, replacing the sun.
Yeah.
And that's why, in many practical situations, I think it is not an answer. I think in an urban society like Singapore, it seems to be moving along,
Yeah.
because they don't have the land, and they insist on producing their own very clean leafy vegetables mainly. I think the future is mainly in leafy vegetables, and Asia has far more. And Africa also, leafy vegetables as a major part of their nutrition.
Yeah.
So the future of leafy vegetables grown in an artificial farming system has a future in high-density urban areas, where people have the money to pay for what they want. But I think in rural parts of the world, which are the great majority, it is far away still.
Okay, thank you. Almost, well, time for one more question to all three of you. What will be your first action after today? Kitty?
Make sure I don't throw away food today.
Yes. Jacques?
Bring our solutions to our partners, and especially also to the local partners that we have worldwide.
Yes. Myrtil?
Next Tuesday, I have a meeting with my new team, and we work on the strategy plan 2021. So we will use the suggestions of this meeting also to be inspired and think about what we're going to do next.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your contribution.